Chapter 11, Things Not Seen. Close Calls. First comes the elevator test. We get on at the third floor of the library with other two people, and then 4 more students with enormous backpacks piling on the second floor. It could get very bad. People crushing my feet, shoving me into the walls, discovering the alien in their midst, screaming and freaking out. But none of that happens. Everyone jams onto the far side of the elevator and no one says a word. And I can see it's because this girl with a long white cane is like a magic wand. She holds it in front of her, almost vertical to take up less room. Her finger's on it like a long pencil, and it comes up almost to her nose. No one wants to bump into the blind girl. So her cane is why I passed the elevator test so easily. Plus, it's a short ride to the first floor. So we go past security, and there's Walt. He sees the girl and says, "Hey, Alicia, how's it going?" She smiles and says, "Fine, see you tomorrow." We don't slow down. And now I know her name, Alicia. I feel awkward. I don't know if I should offer to guide her or what. She holds her cane out ahead of her, sweeping it back and forth like a radar. And when it touches the door, she stops. And softly I say, "I'll get that." And she waits while I push it open. And then she's off again, out and down the steps to the pavement. I know she must have traveled this route a lot of times, but the way she also steps ahead is still pretty amazing. So I say, "You get around by yourself really well." She gives me a thin smile and says, "Yeah, and if I work extra hard for another 10 years or so, I'll be able to go places about as easily as your average 6-year-old on crutches. So that's something to look forward to, right?" And then her smile warms up. Oops, more sarcasm. We're facing the street in front of the library entrance. She stops and brings the cane straight up in front of her. She points west and says, "I live about 4 blocks that way. How about you?" And she smiles. I'm not 100% sure, but I think she'd like to keep talking. I start carefully. "I live south and east of here, but I could take a little detour. 4 blocks isn't so far," which isn't exactly true. It's at least 5 degrees colder now, and the breeze has shifted. It's coming in off the lake. I'm cold, but I have shifted back to Greek warrior mode. What's a little discomfort to one such as I? And she says, "That's great." And then she puts out her right hand toward me. "Here, let me hold on to your elbow. That way we can walk closer to the speed instead of mine. You can be my eyes for a few blocks. Okay?" "Okay." "No, it's not okay. You see, I've got no clothes on, and you're a girl who wants to hold my arm and go for a stroll along 57th Street. But I can't say that. If I say, "No thanks," then it'll be like I think she's a leper or something. And it'll hurt her feelings, which is something that seems easy to do. So I take a half a step closer and I stick out my elbow and I bring it to her hand, which is not so easy when you can't see your own arm. She takes hold lightly and we start walking west. I have to shorten my stride because I'm taller. I'd like to just walk along and talk with her, but there are other people on the sidewalks, too much to deal with. But when we get away from the library, there are fewer people and there's also traffic noise, so I'm not afraid to talk. Plus, she's right about people avoiding her. No one walks near her. No one even looks at her for more than a second. "So I heard Walt call you Alicia back there. Nice name." She says, "Thanks. What's yours?" "Bobby. Bobby Phillips." I stink at small talk. We walk along, just walking, and that's fine because a guy and a girl come up right behind us. And then they split and go past on either side of us when we're almost to Ellis Avenue. The guy's on my side, and I'm ready to dodge him if he starts to plow into my space. But he sees Alicia's white cane and makes a wide arc to my right. Saved again by the magic wand. And then I say, "So if you're doing this walk alone, you're listening to the traffic, right? To tell when the lights have changed?" She nods. "Yeah, and the sounds let me know how close I'm getting to the corner, too. That helps if you have to be ready to step down. But I know this route really well, and all the curbs have wheelchair outcuts. Those are good for me, too." And then we're at the corner, and the light has changed, and we're halfway across the street. Then trouble. Whipping up the opposite sidewalk from behind the parked cars is a boy, and he's kicking along on a little silver scooter. He's about 12, and he's got some control problems with the thing, and he's got his head down, and he can't see us because his helmet has a visor, and he's really moving. And I shout, "Hey!" And he looks up, but he's not stopping, so I grab Alicia's arm, and I pull her to the right just in time to keep her from getting nailed. And as I pull her out of the way, she lets go of my elbow and puts her hand out to catch herself. And the kid shouts, "Hey yourself, lady," and flips us the bird as he zooms off along the sidewalk. So we make it to the other curb, and we're not dead, and nobody's too near, and so I say, "Close call. Sorry about that. Some kid on a scooter. You all right?" And I look at her face, and she's not all right. Not at all. There's a look on her face, a little scared, partly confused, partly something else, like disgusted. And I know why. Because when I yanked her off balance and she put her hand out, her open hand went right up against my rib cage, almost into my left armpit. And she knows what bare skin feels like. Why don't you have a shirt on?" It's not a question. She takes half a step back and says, I thought it was weird when I took your elbow and you didn't have long sleeves or a jacket, but I just figured you were wearing a t-shirt or something because it was warm earlier. But even back there in the library, how can you not have a shirt on in the library? And out here it's cold, it's February. And I can't deal with this. Not now. I can't stand here on the corner street and tell her as weird as she thinks it is, it's actually 10 times stranger than that. 100 times stranger. "What's going on? Talk to me. Are you there?" And I gulp. "Yeah, I'm here. But look, can I try to explain this later? Could I call you at home? It's not what you think." Her face becomes fierce, a mask, almost primitive. "It's not what I think. So now you know what I think. Is that it? Because believe me, you don't. Because right now, I think that for the last half hour, I've been hanging out with some strange guy with no shirt on who's probably covered in tattoos, and I bet you have some piercings and some terrific body jewelry, right? So just get away from me, Bobby Phillips, if that is even your real name. You're not the first creep to try to pick up a cute little blind girl, and I'm not stupid. I know exactly where I am. This is my neighborhood, and I'm walking home now alone. And if you come near me, even if I think you're near me, I'll scream. And every shop owner and everybody who lives along the street knows who I am, and they'll be out here to bust you in a second. So go now and let me hear you'll give goodbye from the other side of the avenue. Now." I don't say anything because a lady is walking past us, frightened at this blind girl who seems to be yelling at no one. If I were even a little bit guilty of anything, I'd just walk away. If I hadn't told her my name and that my mom works for the university, if she had no way to trace me, I'd just walk away, which would be the smart thing to do even now. But now I'm mad too, because she has no right to yell at me. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't lied to her, and I'm not going to. I'm not a creep, and I won't let her think that about me for the rest of her life. So I say, go ahead. Go ahead and scream. Scream all you want. I'll stand right over here, about 10 feet away, and when you're done screaming and everyone comes to help you and they come and try to haul me away, and they can't even find me right on this corner, then maybe I'll tell you what's really going on, because you don't have a clue. Not a clue. No one does. So go ahead and scream. Let's see what happens. The face of hers, it's running through about 10 emotions a second. And then there's one emotion taking charge, and it's the fear. Like me on the first night at home. Alicia's alone in the dark, and she's afraid, and it just keeps building. She sucks in this huge breath, and I think she's really going to do it. Just scream bloody murder. But she holds her breath for about 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then she lets it out slowly. Her voice is hard and flat. So tell me the truth. Tell me the big secret. Tell me how come you're not some shirtless creep. She's gripping her white cane with both hands, ready to use it like a samurai sword. Simple, because I'm not just shirtless. I'm also pantsless and boxerless and sockless and shoeless. I'm not wearing any clothes at all. You wanted the truth, and I swear to God that's what I'm telling you. And if I'm telling you the truth and I'm naked, then how come there's not a huge crowd standing around us right this minute? How come? She's really confused now, and even more so afraid. So I say, one possible reason a completely naked person is not drawing a crowd would be that everyone is blind as you are. And the only other reason isn't even possible. That would be that no one can see me. So which do you think it is, Alicia? Is everyone around us blind? Or am I invisible? It's like I've just slapped her across the mouth. She comes to a full stop and then furious, and she hisses, "Very funny. Oh, look, look, look," she says, her voice dripping bitterness, and she jerks her hand up and holds it in front of her face and acts like she's invisible with her eyes wide. "Well, well, well, I'm invisible too. Ice and granite and stainless steel. Why don't you just take your sick humor and go away, Bobby?" She's practically spits the name in my face. Alicia doesn't know what to do, and again I think she might just start screaming. And instead she takes her right hand off her cane and holds it out toward me. Her hand is trembling. "Here, let me hold your hand." Her voice is shaky now, but she has guts. I don't know what I'd be doing if our places were reversed. Probably be screaming by now. I put my hand on her palm, and she clamps onto it. It's a powerful grip for such delicate-looking fingers. "Is anyone walking toward us?" I scan the sidewalk. "Yeah, there's a guy just coming out of the Starbucks. He'll be here in about 15 seconds. When he's right next to us, you squeeze my hand once, okay?" I gulp, because she's really got a grip, and if she's going to try to get this guy to call the cops or something, then I'm going to have to work to get loose. But I say, "Fine, whatever you say," because I want her to know that I'm not lying. The guy is almost next to us, and I squeeze her hand. "Excuse me, sir." She's cute, and she's got good at asking for help, and the guy stops. And in a voice that's louder than it needs to be, the man says, "Yes, can I help you, miss? Do you need to get across the street?" My heart is jumping around in my chest, and I'm tensed, ready to cut and run, and Alicia smiles at the man and says, "This guy here next to me, can you tell me if he's taller than I am? We've been having an argument because I think I'm taller than he is. What do you think?" And her hand tightens around mine. The man is torn. He doesn't see a thing. I can tell this guy is worried that he's going to have to hurt this little blind girl's feelings. But he clears his throat and he says, "The guy there next to you, miss? Actually, there's no one there." And she shakes my hand like a puppy shaking a rag. "He's right here. I'm holding his hand. Who's taller? Can you tell?" Her voice is shrill, almost frantic. The guy doesn't like being called a liar. "Miss, whoever you thought was next to you, he's not there now. And I've got to go before the light changes." And he cuts across 57th Street, glancing back once, shaking his head. And there's a new look on her face. New for Alicia, but I've seen it before, on Mom and Dad's faces. The first morning, it's the look of someone who's trying to process impossible information. Because when something impossible happens, everyone else comes unglued. She's having trouble breathing, and then the first words, so, you're really? Yeah, I say, invisible. And then she finishes her sentence, naked? And then I have to laugh a little, and I say, yeah, that too. And you're not some creep? Like you're really Bobby Phillips and you go to the lab school and your mom teaches literature just like you said? And this is really happening to you, like for real? Really, I say. I'm not making this up. How could I? You heard the guy. He couldn't see me. No one can if I don't wear clothes. And I came out here without clothes today because the only other way to come is to be completely covered up like I was on Tuesday. Except earlier today, it wasn't cold enough for that. And I had to get out of the house for a while. I had to. And then I say, look, can we move over closer to the buildings? Because people keep coming past us, and you look funny here talking to no one. Over here. She nods and follows my voice, tapping with her cane until she reaches the wall. Looking sort of dazed, she's shaking her head. But how? How did it happen? Like, why you? And I give an involuntary shrug. Oh, that's what I've got to find out, and I have no idea. And again, that fact hits me like a bus. I have no idea. And neither does my dad. He's a science wonk. He sounds a lot like your dad, maybe even real smart. And he doesn't even have a theory. Only me and my mom and my dad know about this, and now you. And she's standing there next to the drugstore window, the sharp breeze blowing her hair across her face, and she's trying to get her mind around it. And she's doing a lot better than my parents did. A sudden blast of frigid air hits us from the east, and she shivers. And then this look comes over her face. It's a mom look. And in a mom voice, she says, you must be freezing. Yeah, but everything's pretty intense for me right about now, so I don't think about it much. You want some real cocoa? They have good cocoa at Starbucks, really. You need to warm up. Here, put your left hand on my cane out there in front of mine. And you can just walk in with me. Everyone gets out of my way. Let's go." And she turns toward the coffee shop, and I hold the cane, and in we go. And she buys a tall cup of cocoa and asks for 2 straws. I steer her to a pair of stools against the wall, and she pops the top off the cup and puts both straws into the drink. I start to bend toward the right-hand straw, but she whispered, "Too hot." "It's always too hot. Just stir it for a minute or two." And there's a man at a small table about 3 feet from us, and he glances up when he hears Alicia whisper, but immediately looks back to his newspaper. I guess blind people are allowed to whisper to themselves if they want to. Probably anybody is. And when the cocoa drained down to the sweet dark stuff at the bottom of the cup, we get up and walk back outside, then to the corner. The clock on the bank across the street says it's 4:28, 58 degrees. And Alicia says, "Sorry, I got mad. I'm always getting mad." And I say, "Me too." And then I say, "I've got to get home. My mom's probably tried to call about 10 times, and I've got to let her know I'm okay before she calls the National Guard or something. Except she can't, because we're not telling anyone about this. My dad thinks I'd get abducted by the government or something, and he's probably right. He'll go nuts if he finds out I told you. So you've got to keep this a secret, okay?" And she nods, dead serious. "Absolutely." And then a thought runs across her face, and she grins. "But don't worry. Because if I go to my mom or dad or anybody and I say, 'Hey, guess what? I drank some cocoa today with this invisible boy,' who do you think's going to have a problem? You or me?" I laugh a little, and then I say, "Listen, I gotta go." And she says, "I'll be in your room again tomorrow from 1 to 3, and if you want to call sometime, my last name is Van Dorn." "Good. I'll try to come tomorrow. Maybe about 2, okay?" And she smiles and says, "Good. See you, Alicia. Bye, Bobby." And I'm on the other side of Ellis, and I look back, and Alicia's walking away, working the long white cane, heading home. I turn and start jogging, and I feel strong. I am the Greek warrior, and I know exactly what this soldier is going to do when he gets back to his barracks. He's going to take a long, hot bath. And I trot along. I'm doing something I haven't felt like doing for weeks, at least 2 days. I'm smiling.